Okay, and I will hit the presentation button. All right.
Okay, great. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So again, welcome to our information system, our information session. We'll be talking about our UMD Global STEWARDS NSF National Research Traineeship Program. STEWARD stands for STEM Training at the Nexus of Energy, Water Reuse, and Food Systems. And the program began in September of 2018. Next slide. Okay, so today we'll start with looking at the big picture of global food, energy, and water systems. We'll discuss a little bit about the existing gaps in graduate education, and then we'll introduce the program goals, program elements, and application process for the UMD Global Stewards program. And next slide, thanks. All right, so if we take a step back and look at the big global context here, I think all of us are very familiar with these concepts that together population growth, climate change, and other factors are really crippling our global food, energy, and water resources. We read it every day in the newspaper. There is an article where we can see that we are running out of water to grow food. We have increasing energy demands. We need to find alternative energy sources compared to fossil fuels, and the list goes on. And then, of course, with this year's pandemic, we know that the pandemic has created even worsening situations with regard to all of these food, energy, and water systems. Particularly if we look at our food systems, the pandemic is really wreaking havoc on a global scale. And we actually have one of our interdisciplinary research projects for our current cohort of fellows is actually looking at these impacts of COVID-19 on food, energy, water systems. Next slide. So let's just go through a little bit of the snapshots of our global water, food, and energy challenges. If we look at water, things don't look good. This is an analysis and visualization by the World Resources Institute showing that it's predicted that by 2040, we're going to see about a third of the world in high or extremely high water stress. And of course, you can see that the United States is predicted to be in that situation as well. Next slide. If we look at our food systems at the same time, while we are running out of water to grow food, at the same time, we're going to reach a population of around 10 billion by 2050. And to feed these growing populations, the UN estimates that we're going to need to increase our global agricultural output by as much as 70%. Next slide. And then if we look at our energy challenges, this is looking at world energy consumption by energy source from 1990 to 2040. So you can see as we go through time, our energy consumption across all different types of energy sources continues to increase. And the United States Energy Information Administration, or EIA, projects that we're going to have a 28% increase in world energy use by 2040. So the question is, well, how is that energy going to be supplied? Next slide. And then if we take a look and say, okay, well, we know that food, energy, water systems are interconnected. They're also very much interconnected with our climate. What are those specific intersections that we can see? So if we look at the agricultural sector, it's not only the biggest user, but it's also the biggest polluter of fresh water worldwide. So you can see those food-water dynamics right there. If we look at energy-food dynamics, energy is needed across the entire agri-food chain, from the pre-harvest setting, where we have the introduction of fertilizers, other nutrients, where we need to pump groundwater, for example, to irrigate crops, all the way to our consumer end, where we actually see the largest energy use associated with food systems is actually happening in our very own kitchens, with the way we store food, the way we cook food, the way we preserve food. Next bullet. And then if we look at these food climate interactions, this is a study that was published in 2018 in Science. It's estimated, at least from this study, that the food supply chain contributes almost 14 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalents, which is about a quarter of our anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. So the way that we eat, the way that we produce this food is directly impacting our continuing global challenge of climate change. Next slide. And then if we just take one example of a massive food, energy, water system waste, that would be in the form of US food waste. So in the US, as this visualization is showing, the average American throws away around 200 to 250 pounds of edible food each year. And that equates to about 40% of food that in the US that is produced is never eaten. And so along with all of this food that's wasted is all of the energy and all of the water that went into producing this food. Next slide. And if you look at it in a different way, if we were to take food loss and food waste and look at it as if it were its own country, it would be the third largest greenhouse gas emitter, which is just incredible. So if we could just take that problem of food waste and address it, we would really be able to tap into a lot of inefficiencies in our food, water, and energy systems. Next slide. So what all of this points to is this emerging paradigm or perspective that our food, energy, and water systems are intricately related. And these interconnections have been coined the food, energy, water nexus. So again, when we produce food, we need energy and water. Whenever we produce energy, we also need a lot of water to do so. And if we look at water, we know that it's key for food production and energy production, and yet as we go through time, we know that we have extreme water shortages throughout the globe. Next slide. So it's interesting that although, ever since, prehistory and recorded history, we know that there have been these interconnections between food, energy, and water systems. The term food, energy, water nexus, or sometimes it's called the food, energy, water, climate nexus, was actually first coined at the World Economic Forum that took place in Davos, Switzerland in January of 2011. It was the first time sort of at a global level, there was this realization that, hey, these systems are interconnected, and moving forward, we must address the management of these systems together. So later that year, it was the German government that held their first global FEW Nexus conference, again, reiterating that we really need to move away from a sector by sector approach with regard to the science, policy, and management of the FEW Nexus towards a more interlinked or interconnected approach. And then in 2013, the Asian Development Bank reiterated that, yes, it's about the FEW Nexus. It's about how we manage these systems in an interconnected way to solve these global food, energy, and water challenges. Next slide. And what's interesting is that when we talk about these food, energy, water systems, or the FEW Nexus, or all of the interlinkages between these systems, they really go hand in hand with the way that we need to address the Sustainable Development Goals. So these are the latest SDGs. Next bullet. And you can see that when we look at, it's very obvious when we're talking about food, we're looking at any SDGs related to hunger, achieving food security. When we're looking at sort of the energy side of the nexus, we want to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable energy sources that are really not relying so much on fossil fuels. And then if we look at the water side, again, we're touching on those SDGs that are looking at sustainable water management and water security. Next slide. So, but in order to actually move forward with real solutions to these complex, interconnected food, energy, water systems problems, we really need transdisciplinary team science. And so, we throw these words around a lot: multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary. But what we mean by transdisciplinary is that we're bringing together multiple disciplines. So social scientists, bioscientists, chemists, engineers, policymakers. And with those different disciplines, we're creating something new that didn't exist before. So that's really the essence of transdisciplinary. So what's really needed is we need these transdisciplinary team science approaches. We need systems thinking to formulate lasting FEW solutions. Next slide. But part of the challenge, if we focus in on graduate education, if we focus in on what actually is going on at the University of Maryland in terms of graduate education, it's very common that graduate STEM education in particular tends to focus on training experts in highly specialized fields. So you'll come out of your PhD as an incredible environmental engineer or an environmental health scientist or a geographical scientist. And as we all know, we tend to have our students focus on a very thin slice of science, very highly targeted specific scientific investigations within their field. But we really need to inject training within our graduate education models that focuses on this interdisciplinary aspect. How do we actually conduct successful interdisciplinary team science approaches? And then also, how do we prepare our students to be successful across a wide range of career options? You know, your PIs, your mentors, we are very familiar with academia. We know how to train folks to be successful in academia, but we also need to train you all to be able to be successful in industry, in nonprofit sectors, in government. Next slide. So this sort of points us to our overall goal of our NRT. So as I mentioned, we were funded in September of 2018 by the National Science Foundation, and our goal is to sustain an interdisciplinary experiential graduate education model that can train doctoral students to work across disciplines, focusing on food, energy, water disciplines, from local to global levels, from molecular to societal levels, so that we can really create transformative solutions to these global food, energy, water challenges. Next click. And our overall goal is that we really want to build a UMD science and policy community that can effectively make these changes globally at the food, energy, water nexus. Next slide. So I'd first like to introduce you to our core program team. Here you see, I'll just go from the top left on down. We see Dr. Amir Sapkota in the School of Public Health, Dr. Rihanna Murray, who's introduced herself, also in the School of Public Health. Maurice Rock, who is the rock of our program. He will be managing stipends, travel stipends, registration for courses, anything and everything you need to know about the university and the program is known by Maurice. We have Dr. Gili Marbach-Ad, who is our evaluator for the program, assessing how well the program is doing at achieving its goals. We have Dr. Stephanie Lansing in Environmental Science and Technology, Dr. Alan Davis in Civil Environmental Engineering, Dr. Jiang Hong Meng in our Joint Institute for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, Dr. Nate Holtman in the School of Public Policy, and then we have Dr. Shirley Vincent, who is our external evaluator. And on the bottom row, we have Dr. Mihai Pop from Computer Science, Dr. Xinzong Liang from Atmospheric and Oceanic Science, and Dr. Shirley McCullough from Plant Sciences and Landscape Architecture. So you can see we started with our inaugural cohort in 2019. We had 12 students across 5 different schools and colleges, so you can really get a sense for the interdisciplinary nature of the program. Next slide. And then our 2020 cohort, again, came from 6 different colleges and schools. So we're, even getting a little bit better in terms of our interdisciplinary focus. Next slide. And we're all brought together by some similar integrated research areas. So in general, we've got a lot of folks working on agricultural resilience through energy efficient water reuse. That's a lot of the stuff that we're doing through our CONSERVE Center of Excellence. We have folks focused on food safety and security in variable climate scenarios, decision support systems to advance food, energy, water adaptation strategies, and then human and social aspects of the food, energy, water nexus. But if you look at this visualization and you say, wow, I don't really see myself, I don't see exactly what I do in these integrated research areas, that's okay, because we have a lot of stuff going on in the fellowship program that is not completely listed in this slide. Basically, if your research touches on any aspect of the food, energy, water nexus, or you're interested in these concepts, your research interests would fit with our program areas. Next slide. And then when we look at the specific elements of the Global Stewards program, these are the elements at a glance. So we have 5 different elements that are part of our program. The first is our experiential coursework, and we have some detailed slides just after this that will get into the specifics of each one. The second element is our Summer Boost Professional Workshop Series, which this year is actually taking place next week. The third is an optional domestic internship. The fourth element is our Winter AMP experiences, which to date have taken place in Israel, but in the future we're looking to do trips in Ethiopia and Nepal as well. And our fifth element is outreach, mentoring, and service to the broader general community, or also high school students. So this is a part of the NRT that is actually still developing. Next slide. So then it is a competency-based program. So we hope and expect that the Global Stewards Fellows that come through our program will pick up these core competencies across interdisciplinary training and research concepts. And these are also available on our website. And these competencies were informed by years of data that came from the National Science Foundation that basically said that, if you want to have a successful interdisciplinary research career, it is these key competencies that are really going to support the development of that type of career. Next slide. So to get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty of the program, our NRT Element 1 is our introductory and advanced experiential coursework. This is 11 credits. The first 3 credits is a course that begins in January. So this next cohort will begin together starting in January of 2021. This Maya 690 course is taught by myself, and it really is an experiential exploration of the food, energy, water nexus. So we do a lot of hands-on activities. We go on field trips. There is a lot of opportunity to hone your oral communication skills, your written communication skills, your teamwork skills. And then the follow-up class to that will take place in the fall of 2021, Maya 691, which is taught by Dr. Stephanie Lansing. And this is where we sort of bring it all together, and it's really a project-based data practicum. So in this course, you're working on an interdisciplinary project that is conceived by your own ideas, so your own interests. We don't just say this is the project that folks are going to work on. It's about what the fellows' interests are, what their own disciplines are, to create a project. And projects from the first year we're seeing are already resulting in manuscripts, grant applications, and a number of different deliverables. Also in the fall and the spring semester, we do a 1-credit seminar. It takes place on Wednesdays at 12 noon. This semester is going to be completely virtual, but it also gives us the flexibility to have incredible leaders at the FEW Nexus from anywhere in the world, which is actually pretty cool. The little Infuse elective that you see at the bottom is basically any course offered throughout the university that at all touches on food, energy, water issues. So this is a course that you've probably already taken as part of your program, because the whole purpose, I know it looks like a lot of credits. The elective you probably already taken, but we don't want to extend time to degree. So the idea is that these credits will fit somewhere into the existing requirements of your PhD program. In our PhD program in environmental health sciences, for example, this fits into one of our specialization areas. So there's no need to add any additional credits. So we hope that that's the case across the programs in the different departments as well. So I'll go ahead and hand it off to Rihanna, who's going to talk about the rest of our NRT elements as well as our application process.
All right, thank you so much, Amy. So the next element is our annual Summer Boost workshops. And we will actually, as Amy mentioned, be holding our workshop next week. It's a week long, and I think there may be 1 or 2 folks in here who's going to be joining us. It's a week-long workshop where we meet in the mornings and the afternoons, all via Zoom. Last year we had it in person, and hopefully maybe in 2021 we can return to in-person workshops. But for this year, we're holding it over Zoom. And our sessions will cover topics like science communication, scholarly writing and publishing, introduction to LaTeX, how to do an effective non-academic job search, and how to overcome the imposter syndrome, and many more topics. So that's definitely something that our stewards look forward to. And then our third NRT element is a local internship. This is an optional aspect of our program, and it's based in a non-academic setting. So you'd be paired with a government agency such as the USDA or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, or even a nonprofit like the Water Research Foundation. So honestly, we try to get this internship to fit your needs, your schedule, your interests. And the purpose of the internship is really to evaluate internship learning objectives and to get you that experience that you need in a non-academic setting. We also aim for this internship to improve communication and professional skills, and for you to assume different responsibilities that you may not actually get in your academic program. And so this is optional, so it's on a case-by-case basis. So what we do is we encourage students to reach out to us if they want to do an internship, and we will do our best, given our different contacts, to place you in an organization that fits your interests. Then our fourth NRT element is the Global Winter AMP trip. And this year, I had the pleasure of leading our group of students to a really, really wonderful study abroad experience in Israel. And the other location that we do have ties with is Nepal, and Amy also mentioned Ethiopia. So in the future, we're looking at traveling to those locations as well. So we visited in the winter of 2020, so just a couple months ago before the world sort of turned upside down. And we had a really great 12-day stay there, where we were able to make contact with one of our local Israeli collaborators who works at the Araba Institute for Environmental Studies in Israel. And he really was able to put us in touch with like local farmers. We got to visit farms where they're using off-grid water treatment technology to grow their crops. And not only did students get to have this great experience while we were in Israel, but after we got back, the students continued to work on different projects that they initiated while we were there. So the trip also was truly interdisciplinary. We had students from many of our different departments represented, and everyone really was able to learn well from each other. And we also completed some projects in spring over Zoom by staying in contact with our Israeli collaborators there. So it's really, really a great opportunity, and everyone who is a global steward can apply to be on this trip, and it's the costs associated with the trip are completely covered by the program. Our fifth NRT element is outreach, mentoring, and service, and this is really an integral and important part of the program to us. We are really about making sure that we give back, and this part of our program is targeted mainly towards undergraduates, secondary students in high schools, and also the general public, people who don't know anything about the FEW Nexus. So in the past, we have had an outreach booth at Maryland Day where we held a survey and informed people about what the FEW Nexus is. We did a food waste workshop at a 4-H Congress workshop that was actually held. The 4-H Congress is held at the University of Maryland every summer. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that this summer. And we did an outreach and service activity at the Capital Area Food Bank. And this aspect of our program is completely student-owned and operated. So the students themselves look for these types of opportunities and open them up to everyone in the program who would like to participate. So unfortunately this year, due to the pandemic, we were not able to complete our typical activities, but students are trying to find a way to maybe complete some of these things online in the fall semester. So we just have to get a little creative this year. All right, so just a little bit more details about the program itself. So approximately 12 fellows will be accepted into our 2021 cohort. And of these 12 fellows, we will be able to fund 6 one-year stipends of $34,000 each, along with tuition support, health benefits, tuition remission, all those things will be included. Now, in order to be eligible for the stipend, an applicant must be a US citizen or permanent resident, and ideally would have at least 2 years remaining on their PhD program. Now, that being said, as Amy mentioned in the beginning, we encourage all students to apply because even international students can make use of a $1,500 stipend that we give for travel, so a travel allowance. And due to the fact that we aren't able to really travel this year, we've also allowed that to be extended to publication fees. So that $1,500 can be used either for attending a conference, even if it's an online conference, or you can also apply it towards publication fees if you would like to publish a manuscript.
And just to add to that, there, Ipsita had a question in the chat.
Oh.
That $1,500 stipend also, that's your personal travel and publication stipend. If you go on the winter AMP, and international students are allowed to go on the winter AMP, that's a completely separate funded trip. So you don't have to use your travel funds for the winter AMP.
Yep. Good, great question. Thanks for catching that, Amy, because I have not been looking at the chat since I've been speaking.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. And also on that third point, ideally it says, ideally have more than 2 years remaining in your PhD program. If this is not you and you have concerns about this, just come to us and ask us. Let us know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we really encourage, if you have any question at all, to reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer any questions as we progress towards the application deadline. All right, so we are open for applying. So please, if you're interested, visit our website, and there's a ton of information about applying. I'm also going to go through all of that now, but we really encourage everyone on the call to go ahead and apply. So some of the applicant requirements are that you must have a current GPA of 3.0 or above, and you must maintain that GPA throughout the program. You must also be enrolled in the UMD PhD program at the time of application. So I know that there were a few folks on the call who said that they're just entering their programs, just starting their first year of their PhDs. Perfect, you're already eligible because you're already enrolled in a PhD program, and by fall of this semester, you would have started your program. So everyone on the call today is eligible to apply under this bullet point right here. You must have intention to conduct research at the FEW Nexus involving at least 2 Nexus areas. But again, this, as we mentioned, this is flexible. If you don't think that your research is connected to the FEW Nexus, don't worry, reach out to us. We can discuss things with you. You must also have approval from your primary advisor, and this year we have included an advisor acknowledgement form, which is available on our website. And while you're doing the application process, you can also download the form. Your advisor must fill this out, and this must be submitted together with your application materials, but there's more information on that on the website. We encourage applications from minority and women candidates as we grow the diversity of our program. All right, so this is our application link. You can also just go to our website, and this link is everywhere on our website. So again, just to go through the required items, the first thing that you'll be asked to fill out on the application form is your typical personal information, name, email, your UMD program, who your advisor is, citizenship, etc. You will be asked to upload a research statement, which must be 1 to 2 pages, so no more than 2 pages. As a PDF, please have a double space, size 12 font, 1-inch margins, the typical requirements. And this should describe your prior research experience, your future research interests at the FEW Nexus, and why you want to be a UMD Global Steward. A current CV, 2 transcripts. This can be unofficial. The one from UMD can be unofficial. And don't worry if you, again, are just starting out your program, you can indicate that in our application form that this is your first year and you don't have an actual UMD transcript. And then we also need a transcript from your most recently completed degree, whether that's a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, we would need that as well. Then we'll have the advisor acknowledgement form, 2 letters of recommendation, and these must be mailed directly from the recommender to our email address. And again, all this information about where it should be mailed to is on our website. So the deadline is September 30th, 2020. So that's a little bit about 6 weeks away. So there is time, but as we all know, time has been flying. So don't wait too long, especially if you might have questions, and also reach out to your recommenders pretty early if you're thinking of applying, because sometimes recommenders can get busy. And the application process really is completely identical to anyone who's seeking an NSF stipend, which would be a US citizen or those who are not. And in the application form, there's the simple box of citizenship. That's the only thing that we ask you, if you're a US citizen or not. That's all the information that you have to provide. And that's, other than that, everything is completely identical. So we will aim to inform applicants of our decisions by November 1st. And the application portal that we use, you cannot save your application and go back. So we really encourage you to have all your materials ready before beginning the application, because once you start the application, you just have to finish it. There's no way to save and go back. Otherwise, you'll have to restart all over again. All right, so before we end off and take questions, I just want to encourage you guys to follow us on social media. We are on all of the major platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and our social media is actually run by our student committee. So our global stewards are actually running social media. And if you do become a global steward, you'll have the opportunity to also help us run our social media as well. And you can email us at umdglobalstewards@gmail.com. And all of this is also on our website in case you need to get back to this information. All right, so a couple of acknowledgements. We always have to acknowledge our NSF NRT program that has funded us and allowing us to do this great work, and all of our co-PIs here: Stephanie Lansing, Shirley McAuliffe, and Marisa Koda, and everyone else who makes this project run smoothly, and our whole Global Stewards community, which you can be a part of if you apply. And this photo below is just us at our last year's, in December 2019, our end of semester celebration and our kickoff event for our new stewards. So hopefully one day we'll all be able to get together again in person. All right, so that is it in terms of our formal presentation. So now Amy and I will be really happy to take questions. We have about 20 more minutes. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen right now. And if anyone has any questions, we would be happy to answer them. You can speak aloud, just unmute yourself, or type in the chat.
Yeah, Damani, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the optional internship program. Would there be a separate application into the internship with whatever the chosen organization is, or like how would it work?
Yeah, this is going to be sort of a case-by-case basis, and unfortunately we haven't even been able to do the internship yet, because the first cohort, they were folks who were kind of further along in their program, so they'd already done internships, didn't need one. Then we had 3 of the fellows this year who wanted to do a summer internship, but then because of COVID, it kind of fell on its face. But basically, we want to basically facilitate whatever internship you might want. So we have, between the faculty members, and also we have a whole network of advisors and other supporting core faculty members across campus. We want to be able to make it easy for you to find the sort of internship of your dreams with one of the federal agencies or an NGO in this area. So it might be something, you know, where we have a lot of ties with the Water Research Foundation, the Water Resource Institute, and it might be like a phone call in that case where we're like, hey, we've got this great student and he wants to come and do an internship, and they're like, this sounds great, sounds like a great match, and there you go. Or it might be, you know, sometimes some of the FDA and USDA programs are more formal and they may require an application. So it just depends on what you are looking for. But we want to help that process, because it can be daunting to nab an internship, particularly with an agency that doesn't have a formal program, but actually sort of is seeking interns behind the scenes.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I have a quick question. So as Rihanna mentioned, the next week we have the summer boost for this year's cohort, right? But if we do that, would that count for the first year students since we are not stewards as of now?
Yeah, so we're going to be working out those details just so everybody knows what we're talking about. This year, so if you are a Global Stewards Fellow, you are required to do the professional workshop series because part of the program, and it's awesome. It's like you're going to want to do this stuff. They have been really well received. We've done one so far and people really loved it. So this year, what we're doing is we're starting to sort of expand and scale the program. So we've invited some additional PhD students who are not yet Global Stewards to participate next week because we're sort of beginning to see, okay, how does this work? How many students can we accommodate? Because in the long run, we want this, the grant will only go till 2023. So the funding from the grant will stop then, but we want to scale and sustain the program beyond the end of the grant and make this sort of part of our culture at the University of Maryland. So getting back to Suhana's question, for those who participate this year, next year's workshop will be completely different. And we're going to kind of figure out whether, we haven't gotten there yet, whether, if you've done one, met your requirement, do you have to do the next one? That will probably be what we land on, but we haven't gotten there yet. I mean, these are going to be opportunities that you're probably going to want to take advantage of because the ideal situation is where we offer different workshops every year. But we're in the process of working on that right now as we figure out how to expand to a larger body of doctoral students.
Hi, I had a quick question about the 1500 grant. Are we supposed to specifically apply for a travel grant or a publication grant? The reason why I ask this is because of the apocalypse and not having travel necessarily be a thing. Can we convert that to a publication cost if things don't go the way that we think it would?
I can take that, Amy. So currently how it works is if you would like to apply for a grant for travel, so the entire thing is $1,500 and you are free to use that over the course of your entire duration as a global student, whether you're a doctoral student for 1 more year, 2 more years, 5 more years, you can make use of that $1,500 till it's exhausted. Currently, what we do is we have a form, a very short form that you have to fill out that just details what the conference is, where it is, how much money you need, etc. And you fill that out and we provide you with the funds. And the funds go directly to you. It does not go, we don't buy your plane tickets. We don't cover your, we don't pay the hotel or anything like that. We pay you the money, you cover your costs and we give you the money back. Simple as that. What we will do now, because of the fact that there is much less travel due to the pandemic, we have expanded this offering to include publication fees. So we have updated the form so that you can either apply for a travel grant or you can apply for publication fees. Again, it's up to $1,500. So you can attend 5 conferences if you want for $200 here, $300 there, whatever you want to do. Until that $1,500 is exhausted, it's all up to you. You can apply for travel and publication fees, whatever you want, until that $1,500 is exhausted. And that $1,500 is available to anyone, regardless if you're receiving a stipend or you're not.
I just wanted just one more clarification, just in case, just as an example, if my research country is Brazil, it's on the banned country list right now, I cannot go there. If suppose I applied for a research travel grant to go to Brazil, can I then request in the future that hey, Brazil's still on the banned country list, can I use this for publication cost? Yes,
so it's up to you whether you use it for travel or publication costs. Now, if travel to Brazil is banned, we probably cannot encourage you to go there, especially if the university does not allow students or members of the university community to travel to certain countries, which is the rule right now when we have to follow the university guidelines. But if you decide, look, I can't go to Brazil because of whatever reasons, yes, that $1,500 can go towards your publication fees, no problem.
Yep. And it can also go, I think we've had a couple of fellows take advantage of using it for, you know, professional development workshop that might be virtual. So maybe there's a $150 fee for a virtual professional development workshop, and that would also fall under this category. Again, it's just a small form that you're letting us know what's the intent for these funds, and then they would be released.
Yep. Sure.
Yeah,
Go
go ahead.
Can I ask a question about the courses? Like, I suppose this is a 2-year program. So are we supposed to finish all the courses in, like, is there time required, like in 1 year, in 2 years, or just finish doing my PhD program is okay?
Yeah, that is a great question. We should probably clarify this on the website. So it's the big advantage of, or one of the big advantages of being a fellow is to experience, you know, new friendships and a cohort with people who are interested in things similar to you, but coming from it from a different discipline. So it's a very cohort oriented program. So the folks for the 2021 cohort will all take the classes together. So they'll take the 3-credit 690 class in the spring, and then along with the 1-credit seminar, and the 691 3-credit class in the fall, along with a 1-credit seminar, so that the whole group of folks take those same classes in the spring 2021 and fall 2021. And what we didn't mention, hopefully, I mean, eventually we will go back to campus. We just don't know when. But the nice thing about the seminar course is it's a free lunch. So we always do a wonderful lunch, and it's kind of a nice social event as well. And we work with the sustainable dining program, the Cool Food Pledge. So we get, it's basically climate friendly vegan lunches. Really awesome. We're actually official tasters for the Cool Food Pledge program. So when we get back to campus, the seminars are really nice gathering place for all of us as well. But so, you know, it's the 3-credit course that I teach in the spring is really more of an advanced introductory course, so that we're bringing all these disciplines together. People are getting to understand what do these disciplines do with regard to food nexus research. But that course in the fall is really a practical, data practicum related course. So you can think of it more as like, it's kind of more like a side project that you do with people who you wouldn't normally do research with in your department, that will, you know, so far they've resulted in peer-reviewed extension fact sheets, publications, as I mentioned, a grant. So it's really a hands-on research opportunity. It's not like kind of maybe a boring, useless 3-credit course. It's really an active research engagement activity.
Yeah, thank you. So is there any expectations from us? Like, are we supposed to just, for example, make a conference publication? Is there any requirements about this?
There's no requirements. The goal of the course is you want to have some kind of deliverable, right?
Okay.
But that deliverable could be like testifying for a local piece of legislation, for example, because we've also had policy-oriented projects as well. It could be an outreach event that you want to, you know, actually pull off. There's no requirement that it has to be anything. It's totally wide open. The overall purpose of 691 is just so that you really get that interdisciplinary team science experience. And it really has been amazing to see how much we have all learned by engaging with different disciplines. That's the real point of it. It's very open. It's very creative.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The only course that you would take outside of your cohort is the elective. So the elective, as Amy mentioned, you may have already taken a course that can suffice as the elective, or you may be taking it in another year, but that's the only course that you take outside of what the entire cohort is doing at the same time.
Got it.
Another thing that I wanted to emphasize is, I guess I didn't quite emphasize it at the beginning. This is an incredibly prestigious National Science Foundation program. It is widely known. The NRT is the National Research Traineeships. If you have this as a line on your CV, it's very, very well recognized. It's And we're really lucky at our campus that we have 3 NRTs. We have one at the Food Energy Water Nexus, ours. We have one in language science and one in network biology. We're the only campus in the whole country that has 3. Most campuses, even if they have one, they're lucky, and we have 3. So it's an incredible opportunity to not only take advantage of the wonderful aspects of the program, but to also have this really nice feather in your hat on your CV. Many of your advisors might have been former IGERT fellows, because the IGERT was the former kind of iteration of the NRT. But if you go into particularly academia or government, people will recognize this fellowship program on your CV. It's very prestigious. So even for international students, we are so bummed that we cannot offer international students the big stipend. That, from our perspective, that really sucks. It's something that's dictated by the US federal government. But still, you're still going to have on your CV that you were a recipient of an NSF fellowship, because you still get to take advantage of all the benefits of, learning, training, benefits of the fellowship.
Thank you.
Any other questions for us? I included in the chat our 2021 application info sheet, which summarizes a lot of what we talked about today. So if you click on that in the chat, you'd be able to access it. And it's also on our website again. Is there any more questions? Are there any more questions? Does anyone have anything you want to ask us? Okay, well, Amy, I don't know if maybe we should end things off here. We're about 5 minutes away from our time. Thank you everyone for joining us. It was really, really great to connect with you this morning and to see so many interested faces. We are so happy that you are interested in our program. Again, if there's anything you want to ask us, if you're thinking about applying but not sure if you fit with our program, if you're confused about any aspect at all, please, please, please reach out. We are happy to answer questions. And yeah, our deadline to apply is September 30th, so don't wait too long. And keep checking our website, follow us on social media. And yeah, I think that's about it, Amy.
Yeah. I think you have said it all. We're so happy to see that you're interested in our program. And again, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Take
Bye.
care. Okay.